There's a quote that you've probably heard before that says, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. And that is so true. That's one of the most important things that you're ever going to hear. Why? Because if you do literally anything worth doing, there's going to be people who oppose you. There's going to be people who just hate on you for no reason. And that's fine. That's okay. Because again, what does the quote say? If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. And so there's also another quote. I don't know who said it, but it says, the only insults are the ones, or sorry, wait, what the fuck? Hold on, what the fuck was it? Fuck. Something like, the only insults are the ones that we believe, or something like that. The only insults, sorry, I think it was like, the only insults that hurt us are the ones that we believe. And so, I don't know if you've heard of Alex Hormozi, but Alex Hormozi is like very, very successful entrepreneur, very, very successful businessman. And he and his wife were walking, and this guy just bumped into his wife at one point as they were walking. And this guy called his wife a skinny bitch, which was meant to be taken as an insult, by the way. Like that comment, like obviously, like if somebody calls you a skinny bitch, that's meant to be taken as an insult. But Alex Hormozi's wife didn't take it as that. She looked at Hormozi and said, "Did you hear that? He called me skinny." Do you see the power? Like I know that sounds weird, but do you see the power in that? That insult was meant to be taken as just that, as an insult. But Alex Hormozi's wife, she didn't take it that way. She took it as a compliment. The only insults that hurt are the ones that we believe. And so if someone insults you, if someone attacks you, what if you just took it as a compliment instead? Like, do you see how powerful that is? Like, what if it, like if somebody calls you short, it's like, oh yeah, you're short. What if instead you say, oh, okay, cool, thanks. Like, do you see the power in that? Do you see how powerful that is? I wear really, really goofy shoes. Like, I wear those shoes that have like the toes in them. Like, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like, you've seen those people, maybe people online, you've seen those people wear the shoes that have like the individual toes, right? And so I wear those basically just really wherever I go. And people, they'll just make fun of me for it, and that's fine. Some people say like, oh yeah, your shoes suck, your shoes are goofy. I'm like, and my response is just like, yeah, you're right, they are goofy. Yeah, you're right, they do suck. What do they say now? Nothing. There's nothing that they can say, and it just silences it. Because if what they say is true, and I somewhat believe it, I should agree. Why shouldn't I? If somebody says I'm short, I could just be like, yeah, you're right. Somebody says my shoes suck, your shoes are really goofy. I could just be like, yeah, man, you're right, they are goofy. The fuck you gonna say now? Like, what? That just silences conflict, because conflict only happens if there's an equal or opposing force, right? And so again, this is another lesson that I learned from Alex Hormozi, is that there's only one person allowed in the angry boat. So basically, he told this story where it was like, he used to work for a fur coat dealer, and this lady comes in with her fur coat, and something was like damaged about it, like the button fell off or something like that. And his boss walks in, and the lady's just like, just screaming. She's like, oh yeah, like this fur coat sucks, like why could you do this to me, like yada yada yada. Like, this lady's just heated, right? And so his boss comes in, and it's just like, Miss, like, whatever her name was. He's like, who sold you this coat? Like, what happened here? And it's like, oh yeah, like this person sold me this coat, but like, yeah, it's fine. It's like, it's not a big deal. This is absolutely unacceptable. We will fix this right now. And that person who sold that coat will be removed immediately. They will never be able to get a job ever again. Like, he went extreme with it, right? And so this lady's response was like, oh yeah, it's not that big of a deal. Like, you can just fix it for me, like, a little bit. That's fine. And so his boss walked away, and he made the sale or whatever. Like, he fixed this lady's coat. And then he walked up to Alex Hormozi, and said, only one person allowed in the angry boat. And so the lesson in this story is that if somebody attacks you for something, and what they say has an element of truth to it, you can just agree, and that just stops the conflict. Because again, one person allowed in the angry boat, right? And so again, the equal or opposing force, if you go with them and you step in the angry boat with them, then there's nothing to push against. Because if they say to you, your shoes suck, you could be like, yeah, dude, you're right, bro. Like, they do suck. And then they have to get out of the angry boat, because if they agree with you, then what? Like, it just silences the whole thing. So that's honestly like a really good way to deal with these kind of things, is to just agree. I think it was like Eminem or something who popularized like him winning like the rap battle. Like if you ever seen like Eminem's rap battles or some of them, he agrees with the guy who's insulting him. He says like, yeah, you're right, dude. Like I am white. I am Obama. Like I do like, I live with my mom in my mom's basement or some shit. And he keeps like owning all the stuff that's thrown at him. And so the other guy just can't talk shit about him. And so he wins. So the next time somebody does something like that to you, just agree. What are they going to do afterwards? Nothing. It just silences the whole thing. Like, and a step up from this is to basically just like agree and amplify. So basically what this realistically looks like, agree plus amplify, agree and amplify, is if somebody calls me short, it's like, dude, you don't even know the half of it. Like I'm so short that when I try and like grab the cup from the top shelf, I literally can't. So I have to get like this huge ladder that I have to go like move into my kitchen and then grab it. Like that's amplifying it to like an absurd level, right? Because that's basically just like, basically you're just insulting yourself better than they can. And you should know how to do it better than they do too, because again, you know yourself better than they do. And so if you agree and amplify, that just completely silences the whole thing. It's the same thing as agree, but I think it's a step up from that. And really, like, the third option is just ignore. That's it. You can just ignore, because again, what does the quote say? If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. The only insults that hurt us are the ones that we believe, right? So if somebody insults you, you can just ignore it. If somebody says like something about you, just ignore it. Because if I yell at a rock and it just doesn't say anything, and I just keep yelling at the rock, I keep like just like insulting the rock or whatever, eventually I'm just gonna stop like yelling at that rock, right? Because the rock doesn't give me any feedback. And so when you're ignoring, where you're being in that situation, is basically just Dwayne Johnson. You're basically just being the rock in that situation. Like literally, they can do anything towards you. They can say what they want to say, and you're just stone. Like it just doesn't have any effect on you. But it really shouldn't, because again, like chances are these people, they're not people that you actually care about. Like they're just like random people, most likely, right? They're just random people that you don't even care about, who don't even care about you. So why the fuck would you care about what they think? It doesn't matter. If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. But that first part of that quote is really, really important. If there's no enemy within. If there is an enemy within, if there is like that part of your brain that's like, oh yeah, you suck and all this stuff, then the enemy outside can do you harm. Of course, it only makes sense. If there's no enemy within, basically just means that your brain has to like you. And so how do you make your brain like yourself? Well, you take action. It's really that simple. I think this is something that Chris Williams had said from his podcast. He asked, this podcaster the question, do you love yourself for who you are, for what you do? Really, really think about that question. Do you love yourself for who you are or for what you do? That's really, really uncomfortable to consider, isn't it? My mindset with this is that I always like to visualize that the person that I want to become. So I always visualize the best version of me. What actions would they take? What would they do? What does their daily routine look like? What does their mindset look like? And actually, this is an actionable step for you right now. Just like write down who you want to be. That best version of yourself, what do they do? Day after day, what are their habits? What are their goals? What are this? What are that? What does their mindset look like? You write that down and you take action towards it. I'm still taking action towards it. I'm still not there. I'm still not like that ideal. But it makes sense that eventually there comes a time where you come pretty close, or that you're at least making really, really good progress. And so you do feel proud of yourself. So going back to that question, do you love yourself for who you are, for what you do? It comes to a point where you love yourself for who you are because of what you did. Does that make sense? So you love yourself for who you are, who you became, for the action, because of the actions that you took. Because you are your actions. You're not anybody else. You are simply just the actions that you take day after day. A fit person, for example, like a person who's really fit. What actions do they take? They go to the gym every single day. They track like every single grain of rice. They eat healthy. They track their sleep. You know, they make sure like they get all their like, you know, vitamins and minerals in. They stay hydrated. They take, you know, the necessary supplements they have to take. Like all of this stuff, that's a fit, healthy person. A fat person, an unhealthy person, like a Timmy or or something like that. What actions do they take? They sit on the couch for multiple hours on end. They play video games for 16 hours every single day. They eat a bag of Doritos for breakfast every single day. They fap 6 times. You are your actions. And so if you take the right actions, again, if you do that practice, you take the actionable step, you visualize the person that you want to become, you're going to love yourself for who you are because of what you did. And I guess even vice versa, you're going to love yourself for what you do because that's who you are. And so that's how you create a brain that loves you, is that you take action on the person that you want to become. And you do the good things. You start to have self-respect. You start to develop self-respect and self-responsibility. And you take action. Of course, your brain's going to love you. It only makes sense. Once I started to take action, once I didn't waste any time, that's when my brain truly like started to think positive thoughts about myself. Like, when was the last time your brain legitimately produced positive thoughts about yourself? When was the last time that happened? You probably can't even remember, right? Because for a lot of your life, your brain has produced negative thoughts about yourself because you're not living up to your potential. And so once you start to take action, you're going to love yourself for who you are because of what you did. And so again, back to that quote that I said, if there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. If you start to take action, you start to like figure out what you want to do, take action towards it, and you don't waste any time, you're just going to love you. And no matter what anybody says, you're still going to love you. I would rather have everybody hate me and I just like myself, because I was unhappier trying to please other people. I was unhappier just being inauthentic, and that makes sense because I don't know why, but when I was a child, if you liked something, like if you liked a certain piece of clothing, or you liked the shoe, or like this video game, or like this show, I would like it. If you like something, then I liked it. Because why? Because I wanted to fit in, because I liked it because you liked it. Once you start to have this mentality of like, once you start to have this fuck you mentality, I know that sounds weird. Once you start to have like this fuck you mentality of like, I'm just gonna be brutally authentic and you can't do anything about it. Once you start to have this mentality, like what people say just doesn't matter. Again, what like random people who aren't like, who don't genuinely care about you, what they say doesn't matter. If there's no enemy within, the enemy outside can do us no harm. And so if you like yourself more than these random people, these other people like you, then it's really that simple. They can't do anything. Hope this video helped you, bro. Take care.